Imagine a dark room filled with shelves of unsolved cases that may not have been looked at in years. Now imagine taking those cases off the shelf and bringing them into the light. The goal of this channel is to shed some new light on those dark cold cases on a state-by-state basis. Thus, welcome to Dark Cold State. A beautiful 19-year-old transgender teen vanishes without a trace. A person of interest who appears to flee the state before the police can speak with him. An investigation that starts as a disappearance and is later changed to a homicide. A roommate using the teen's belongings after she goes missing. Her family fighting for equal representation for their teenager's case in a world where media coverage seems to prefer the elite and appears to cover cases unevenly based on a person's age, social status, race, or gender. Today, by viewer request, we feature the cold case disappearance and presumed homicide of Sage Smith of Charlottesville, Virginia. If you would like to see a case featured on this channel, please comment below or email me at the email address in the description. Sage Smith was born into poverty, but despite struggling at times, she fought hard and became the first in her family to graduate from high school. Sage worked at a local hair salon, and she was taking cosmetology classes so she could become a professional hairdresser. By all accounts, she had a beautiful life ahead of her. It was November 20th, 2012, and the next day was Thanksgiving. Sage had planned to surprise her stepsisters by visiting them and her mother, Latasha. It is reported that Sage was excited and looking forward to the visit with her family. It is believed on the evening of November 20th, 2012, that Sage had planned to meet a man she had met online at the Amtrak station. Sage, readied for their date, informed her roommate Aubrey that she was leaving and would be back later, and then Sage left the apartment and began walking toward the station to meet up with her date. It appears that she and her date were texting during this time, and that she had also started talking on the phone with another friend. Sage's stepsister Kiera sees her walking on Main Street near the intersection of West Main Street and 4th Street Northwest. Kiera overhears Sage tell the person she was talking with that she would be there in 5 minutes, but Kiera does not know who was on the phone. At approximately 7 p.m., it is reported that Sage is spotted by a witness alone at the Wild Wing Cafe next to the Amtrak station, but this report has not been confirmed. Later that evening, her roommate Aubrey wakes and discovers that Sage is not at home. She tries to reach Sage, but the phone keeps going directly to voicemail, which is very unusual for Sage. Sage is usually available to her friends and family and tries to keep her phone charged constantly. The roommate contacts friends and family members to see if they have heard from Sage, and ultimately, Sage is reported missing. The Charlottesville police begin their investigation into Sage's disappearance on November 22, 2012. Multiple sources reported that the police were immediately concerned about foul play and began collecting statements from friends and family. However, some close to Sage state that the police did not seem overly concerned about Sage's disappearance and only asked for minimal information like her name, birth date, and for a picture. Investigators subpoena Sage's cell phone records, but unfortunately they must wait for the results. Officers also search the area of Main Street and the area surrounding the nearby bus and train stations looking for Sage. In the meantime, her family obtains access to her phone records and discovers the phone number that Sage had last been communicating with. Sage's father, Dean, posts that number on Facebook and asks if anyone in Sage's circle recognizes the number. Yami Ortiz contacted her father, Dean, and stated that the number belonged to Eric McFadden, a man that Sage had been dating. He also informed Dean that Eric McFadden had requested that Yami delete McFadden's contact information from his phone. It is confirmed, based on cell phone records, that Eric McFadden and Sage had been in contact for quite some time. It is also confirmed that Eric had a girlfriend, Esther Ivini, at the same time he was seeing Sage, and that he had been staying at Esther's apartment near the University of Virginia. On November 24, 2012, officers conducted a search of Harris Street and areas around the University of Virginia. On this same day, Esther asked officers to perform a welfare check on Eric McFadden because she was out of town and was unable to reach him. Officers went to the residence and found that there was no one home, and so they left. Also on this day, Yami informed the police regarding Eric McFadden and Sage's relationship. Officers contact Eric's employer and find that he has not been at work for 3 days. On November 25, 2012, Eric McFadden contacts Esther and states he's in Washington, D.C. and needs money. Esther tells Eric that the police need to speak with him and gives Eric the contact information. 2 days later, Eric calls the police and states he is in New York City. He stated that he did have a relationship with Sage, but that she stood him up on the night that she disappeared. Investigators ask Eric to return to Charlottesville so they can speak with him. And later, Esther contacts the police and tells them that Eric had agreed to return, but he never did. Since then, the investigation has provided information that Eric could be in any one of the following cities: Baltimore, Maryland; Joppatown, Maryland; Atlanta, Georgia; Lake City, South Carolina; New York City, New York; Rochester, New York, or really, he could be anywhere. Over the next few days and weeks, additional searches are conducted around Eric's apartment and in the landfill in Henrico County, where the garbage from the apartment dumpster had been taken. On December 3, 2012, Esther also provides police with an email from Eric stating that he had met with Sage the evening she disappeared, and while they were walking together, they had been approached by a group of people, and since Sage had enemies, he walked away before anything bad could happen. The email also made allegations that Sage had been blackmailing Eric McFadden about exposing their secret relationship to others. Since Eric's story has now changed from his original statement to the police, he is moved to the top of the suspect list. In November 2015, police announced that Eric McFadden is no longer considered a suspect, stating that he did not drive or own a car and was in a largely populated city where residents would notice something out of the ordinary. In January 2016, police interview Sage's roommates Shakira and Aubrey again and find that there were inconsistencies in Aubrey's story. In addition to that, Aubrey had been caught using Sage's EBT card and her other personal belongings after Sage's disappearance. In December 2016, police reclassify Sage's disappearance as a homicide. Police insist that Sage's disappearance is still an active case, and they continue to follow leads and tips and make every effort to locate both Sage Smith and Eric McFadden. In March of 2017, Eric McFadden is now once again named a person of interest in this case. It is believed, however, that they consider him more of a witness rather than a suspect, as they state he did not have sufficient means to be responsible for Sage's disappearance. It should also be noted that at the time of this story, there appears to be no evidence linking Aubrey to Sage's disappearance. Sage's family fully believes that her case did not receive the same media coverage as other missing person cases in the same area and around the same time. For example, the search for missing teenager Hannah Graham less than 2 years after Sage's disappearance garnered much more round-the-clock media attention, community support, and resources. Whether it is due to Sage's social status, her race, or her gender, in the years since Sage has disappeared, her family still struggles to keep Sage's story in the media and within the attention of the police department. Since Sage disappeared, the Smith family have met with the chief of police, the city council, and others to share how unhappy they are with how the investigation has progressed. They also created a petition and staged a protest outside Charlottesville Police Department headquarters because they felt all support for Sage's case was gone. Over the course of the investigation, many vigils have been held for Sage in the hope of keeping Sage's story alive and on everyone's mind, hoping that the responsible party will come forward or that they receive the necessary tip that will break the case wide open. In June of 2019, the Charlottesville Police Department filed a missing persons report for Eric McFadden at the request of his mother. Eric McFadden was last seen in Charlottesville, Virginia on November 23, 2012. At the time of his disappearance, he stood between 5 foot 10 inches and 6 foot 1 inches tall and weighed approximately 180 to 190 pounds. He has black hair and brown eyes. On June 27, 2019, police announced Eric McFadden is missing and has been considered missing since November 23, 2012, though contact continued with him until January of 2013. Sage Smith was last seen in Charlottesville, Virginia on November 20, 2012. She was last seen wearing a black jacket, dark gray sweatpants, a black scarf, and gray and black rain boots with pink and purple lining. It is also possible she was wearing a bleached hooded sweatshirt. At the time of her disappearance, Sage had black hair and brown eyes, and she had the distinctive physical feature of having pierced ears and one pierced eyebrow. Her height is approximately 5 feet 8 inches to 5 feet 11 inches, and she weighed approximately 130 pounds. If you have any information regarding the disappearance or whereabouts of Sage Smith or the person of interest in her presumed homicide, Eric McFadden, please call Crime Stoppers at 434-977-4000. There is a possibility of a reward for any information that could lead to an arrest in this case.